Let's talk about what Winklevoss said on CNBC. This was basically saying, hey, we think that Bitcoin's going to $1 million. You just hodl 10 to 10x from here. First of all, how does that work? If it does hit a million, what kind of impact would that have on something like an XRP?
The market cap of crypto would have to 10x from here reasonably, right? Because we're around $100,000 of Bitcoin today. If you had a 10x in market cap, we go from 4 trillion to 40 trillion. I look at the XRP versus Bitcoin chart all the time. That's probably what I watch more than the XRP chart itself when looking for what's going to happen to XRP. And we're poised for a significant move higher in XRP's valuation versus Bitcoin based on what the chart looks like. So, if Bitcoin does get another leg up and we really do see some euphoria and a lot of liquidity move in here, I don't know what other mechanism would drive that, though. Is my only concern. I mean, we already have the ETFs. We already have treasury companies.
Right.
You already got governments and sovereign wealth funds. And it seemed like all the players are at the table. If that was going to happen, we would have seen higher prices, in my opinion. I think we're at a point in the cycle where you might get a little more upside in Bitcoin, but it looks toppy to me. I think we're going to get a rotation into alts before we see the million. But that's not to say over the next
I think he's talking about a
5 years, longer
10
time
year.
frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I don't see who else is going to buy it to drive it to that value on the supply and demand curve.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that for a second. If you have, because this is a whole narrative that we've been talking about for some time on the show, is that this is the cycle of the haves versus the haves. In the typical liquidity model of great markets, there's always winners and losers. That's how markets work. In the past, it was the haves versus the have-nots. It was retail getting basically rugged.
Right.
Now, what we're talking about, retail is not at this game as much. Right now, we're talking about private wealth, family offices, and now RIAs starting to layer this into all of their investment thesis, which has become a thing. That's going to be real because you're talking about high net worth individuals, and there's a lot of those.
That's true. I mean, that's a good point you make. So total addressable market for all of the money managed by RIAs is around $160 trillion globally.
Yeah.
We got about 16 trillion in family office. And so if you had just a small portion of that make its way into crypto, right now about 60% of family offices have no allocation.
Yeah.
To digital assets. Wealth managers, it's also very slim. Most of the time it's through these ETFs or other structured products that they're getting access to it. Direct allocation's very limited. There are a few out there that also partner with Anchorage to be able to provide that aside from us. But yeah, I do think that it'll become more prominent in people's portfolios. I have a hard time. Another 10x worth of demand, unless you had supply constricted again. So to your point, if it's another 5 years and we have another halving and now we're only getting 1.6-ish Bitcoin per block, maybe that's when I can see a circumstance where it could move substantially higher.